We're all swimming in a sea of data, right? It's everywhere. But how do we actually make sense of it all? Well, today we're going to unpack a really critical skill, the art and science of data storytelling. The filmmaker Jean-Luc Godard really hit on something profound here. Stories are how we've always made sense of the world. Think about it. They're not just for entertainment. They're kind of like the operating system for the human brain. And that's the big question, isn't it? What happens when we swap those campfire tales for complex datasets and analytics? How do we hold on to that power, that clarity? This is exactly why this topic is so important. So let's kick things off with a problem I'm sure we've all run into. You can have the most amazing, game-changing data in the world, but if it's just sitting in a spreadsheet, it's like a brilliant message that's been locked away in a safe. It's there, but it can't really do anything. See, raw data on its own is just noise. It's a list of figures. And without context, it's super easy to get confused or, even worse, to jump to the completely wrong conclusion. The truth is, data doesn't speak for itself. It always needs a translator. And that translator, that's exactly what data storytelling is. It's the bridge that takes raw, silent data and turns it into a message that an audience can finally connect with, understand, and most importantly, act on. All right, so if data is the raw ingredient, what's the magic that happens when we actually cook it into a story? What gets unlocked? This visual really nails the why. When we frame our data as a story, three incredibly powerful things happen. First, it becomes memorable. Our brains are just wired to hold on to narratives way better than numbers. Second, it's engaging. It pulls people in. And third, and this is the big one, it becomes persuasive. This is how you get people to move from just seeing the data to actually doing something about it. And that is the absolute key. Storytelling is a time-tested technology for human connection. So when we use it for data, we're not just sharing information, we're creating a direct path from an insight to an action. It's how you get people to feel the importance of the data, not just read it. And here's a fantastic real-world example. Think about what companies like Uber or Spotify do with their year-in review summaries. They don't just send you a spreadsheet of your trips or your most played songs, do they? No way. They tell you a story about your year, making your own data feel personal, meaningful, and honestly, kind of cool. Okay, so we get the what and the why, but what about the how? How do you actually build one of these things? Well, crafting a powerful data story isn't magic. It's a structure built on three essential pillars. I want you to think of these three elements: data, narrative, and visuals, like the legs of a stool. You absolutely need the data as your solid foundation. You need the narrative to connect all the pieces, and you need the visuals to bring it all to life. If any one of them is weak, the whole story just falls apart. First up, the data. This is your foundation of truth. It's non-negotiable. It has to be accurate, clean, and relevant. Because let's be real, if your data is flawed, your story isn't just weak, it's fiction. Next up, the narrative. This is what connects the dots and breathes life into the numbers. It gives you the context, the so what. It takes your audience on a journey and creates that crucial emotional connection. And finally, the visuals. This is the element that makes your story instantly accessible. Our brains are hardwired to process images so much faster than text. The right visual doesn't just show the data, it reveals the insight in a single glance. Okay, let's get a little more practical. You can have a brilliant narrative and rock-solid data, but it can still fall completely flat if you choose the wrong way to visualize it. It's a critical question. I mean, you wouldn't use a hammer to saw a piece of wood, right? You shouldn't use a pie chart when a bar chart is what's needed. The visual has to serve the data, not the other way around. This chart is a great starting point. So if you're dealing with categorical data, things you can sort into groups like sales by product, bar charts are king. For temporal data that changes over time, a line chart tells a really clear story. And for exploring the relationship between two different numbers, what we call numerical data, a scatter plot can be amazing for revealing hidden patterns. Matching the visual to the data type is just fundamental. Now for a topic that is absolutely essential: ethics. You see, with the power to persuade comes the responsibility to be truthful. Think of this as your ethical checklist. Number 1, accuracy. Is your data clean and correct? Number 2, transparency. Are you telling the whole story, not just cherry-picking the parts that help your argument? And number 3, honesty. Are your visuals a fair representation of the data? Or are they designed to maybe mislead a little? At the end of the day, the entire goal here is to bring clarity and understanding. Trust is your most valuable asset when you're communicating with an audience. And once you lose it, it's almost impossible to get back. So let's do a quick recap. Stories are what make complex data make sense. When you do it right, your data stories become memorable, engaging, and persuasive. They're built on that foundation of data, narrative, and visuals. Always remember to pick the right chart for your data type, and above all, tell your story responsibly. Every single dataset out there has a story locked inside it. So the question on this slide is really for you. With these ideas, you now have the key to unlock that story, bring it to life, and make a real impact. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.